As a child, Andrew Smith was an ordinary boy living in the suburbs of Chicago. His family was not rich, but his parents always tried to give him the best they could. Andrew was an inquisitive and intelligent child who showed an interest in technology and various mechanisms from an early age. He enjoyed disassembling and assembling toys and later household appliances. When Andrew was 10 years old, his father lost his job and the family found themselves on the brink of poverty. This event became a turning point in the boy's life. He saw how hard his parents had to find ways to survive, and this gave him a feeling of injustice. He decided that he would never allow himself and his loved ones to live in need. As a teenager, Andrew began to test his limits. He learned how to pick locks and security systems using his knowledge of mechanisms. His first victim was a school warehouse, where he stole several computers and sold them on the black market. This successful operation gave him confidence in his abilities and a taste for the adrenaline that accompanies such actions. Andrew quickly learned that the more difficult the goal, the greater the reward. He began planning larger thefts, carefully studying the security systems of the sites. His next targets were large shopping centers and warehouses. However, Andrew did not forget about his roots. He often distributed part of the loot to those who needed help, which created an aura around him of a kind of modern Robin Hood. But as his thefts became more bold, so did the attention of the police. Andrew knew he needed to be even smarter and more careful. He began to carefully plan his operations, avoiding surveillance cameras and leaving a minimum of traces. His knowledge and skills allowed him to hack even the most complex security systems. His first major success came when he decided to rob a local airport. Using his connections and skills, Andrew was able to infiltrate the cargo terminal and steal the precious cargo. This success only strengthened his determination to continue his criminal career. Andrew expanded his operations and began targeting large ships carrying valuable cargo. He developed complex schemes that allowed him to bypass the security systems of ports and ships. Each robbery was carefully planned and executed with pinpoint precision. However, Andrew wasn't limited to just airports and ships. He understood that schools could also contain valuables, from expensive equipment to students' personal belongings. He became one of America's most wanted fugitives, leaving a trail of looted properties and surprised witnesses in his wake. But despite his success, Andrew knew that he needed to be constantly vigilant and able to adapt to changing circumstances. His life became an endless game of cat and mouse with the law, in which the stakes grew higher every day. Andrew continued his daring robberies, becoming more and more skilled at his craft. He carefully studied each object before starting an operation and always found weaknesses in the security system. His successes did not go unnoticed, and he soon became a legend in the criminal world. One of his most memorable heists was the infiltration of an elite school in New York, where valuable works of art and rare books were kept. Andrew managed to bypass all security systems, including cameras and guards, and came out with loot worth millions of dollars. This success not only strengthened his reputation, but also attracted the attention of the FBI. Despite the growing risks, Andrew had no intention of stopping. He understood that each new robbery had to be even more daring and complex in order to maintain his adrenaline level and stay one step ahead of the law. New plans were brewing in his head, and one of the next targets was a large port terminal in Los Angeles. Andrew and his team began preparing for this operation with extreme care. They studied court schedules, security schemes, and surveillance cameras. This time, Andrew decided to use the latest technology, including drones and specialized hacking equipment, to ensure the success of the mission. On the night of the robbery, the team acted coherently and professionally. Andrew controlled every action of his accomplices, and the operation went like clockwork. They were able to board the ship, load containers of expensive goods onto their vehicles, and disappear before security noticed they were missing. This triumph only whetted Andrew's appetite for even bigger operations. He began planning a robbery at one of the world's largest airports, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. The plan was so complex that its preparation took several months. Andrew and his team conducted a thorough surveillance of the site, analyzing all aspects of security and staff routines. They created fake passes that allowed them to move freely around the airport. Finally, Day X arrived. On the night of the robbery, the team acted flawlessly. They disabled video surveillance systems, broke electronic locks, and entered cargo terminals where particularly valuable cargo was stored. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly, one of the alarms went off and the guards began to converge on the site of the intrusion. Andrew knew their time was limited. He decided to speed up the operation and quickly organize the evacuation of the loot. In the final seconds before police arrived, the team fled the airport grounds, leaving chaos and bewildered security guards in their wake. Despite the near miss, the airport robbery became one of the most successful of Andrew's career. But now, a real hunt was underway for him, and he realized that he needed to act even more carefully. He decided to lay low for a while and come up with a new plan that would allow him to continue his criminal activities while remaining elusive. Andrew began to analyze international routes and look for new opportunities for robberies. His attention was drawn to one of the largest ports in the world, the port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. He knew it would be a real challenge, but it was operations like these that brought him true satisfaction. Preparations for the robbery of the port of Rotterdam took several months. Andrew and his team reviewed all aspects of port security, including patrols, CCTV cameras, and staff scheduling. They developed a complex plan that included the use of fake documents and high-tech equipment. On the night of the operation, the team acted coherently and confidently. Andrew controlled their every move, and soon they were able to enter the port. Everything went according to plan, and they began loading containers of valuable goods onto their vehicles. But suddenly, one of the port employees appeared and noticed something was wrong. Andrew made a quick decision to neutralize the witness and speed up the loading process. They were able to complete the operation and leave the port before the police arrived. The robbery of the port of Rotterdam became one of the most daring and successful in his career. Now Andrew was confident that he could cope with any task. His next target was one of the largest banks in the world, the Bank of England. It took more than a year to prepare for this heist, but Andrew knew the results would be worth it. Andrew and his team began preparing for the Bank of England robbery with a detailed plan. They studied every corner of the building, every cell, and every shift of security. This bank was famous for its impenetrable security systems, and Andrew knew that they were about to have the most difficult robbery of his career. They developed several action scenarios to be prepared for any unforeseen circumstances. Andrew brought the best specialists to the operation: hackers, safecrackers, and camouflage experts. They created fake documents and legends that allowed them to sneak inside the bank unnoticed. The day of the robbery was scheduled for a quiet Sunday morning when there was minimal activity at the bank. On the appointed day, the team began to act. Hackers penetrated the bank's security system and temporarily disabled surveillance cameras. The safecrackers quickly and accurately opened the security doors, and the team began filling bags with money and jewelry. Suddenly, the security system went off and the alarm sound spread throughout the building. Andrew was not at a loss. He quickly ordered the team to speed up the process and prepare for evacuation. In the last seconds before the arrival of the guards, they left the bank through underground tunnels, prepared in advance for their retreat. The robbery was successful, but the tension was incredible. Now Andrew realized that he needed to temporarily hide and let the attention of law enforcement agencies subside. He decided to go to South America, where he had connections that allowed him to remain undetected. However, Andrew had no intention of stopping his activities. He continued to plan and analyze new possibilities. While in Argentina, Andrew learned of a large diamond mine in Brazil that was one of the most secure in the world. He decided that this would be his next goal. Preparation for the mine robbery included months of studying its structure and security system. Andrew brought the best underground and safety experts to the operation. The team entered the mine territory under the guise of workers. They used sophisticated circuits and equipment to bypass security systems. When they got to the diamond storage facility, the operation did not go according to plan. One of the motion sensors was activated and the guards began to converge on the infiltration site. Andrew quickly decided to evacuate, taking with him only part of the loot. The mine robbery brought less than they expected, but made them realize that even the most protected objects have weak points. Andrew continued to seek new goals and improve his methods. His team became a legend in the criminal world, and many wanted to join them, but Andrew chose only the most reliable and trusted. Andrew's next goal was one of the largest casinos in Las Vegas. This place attracted him not only with its huge cash flows, but also with its high level of security, which he considered another challenge. The team developed a detailed plan that included distracting security and disrupting key security systems. The operation began with a staged fire on one of the top floors of the casino. While security and staff evacuated visitors, Andrew's team entered the vault and began opening the safes. They soon encountered an unexpected obstacle: reinforced security, which, despite the fire alarm, remained at its post. Andrew and his team were forced to improvise. Using smoke bombs and explosive devices, they managed to distract the guards and seize a significant amount of money and securities. Leaving the casino through hidden exits, they again avoided arrest. But they understood that after this robbery, attention to them would increase many times over. Andrew decided it was time to change tactics. He went to Europe, where new challenges and opportunities awaited him. In Paris, he began to develop a plan to rob one of the most famous museums, the Louvre. His goal was rare and priceless works of art that could be sold on the black market for exorbitant amounts of money. Andrew knew that this would be one of the most difficult robberies of his life. He began collecting information about the museum's security systems, patrol routes, and staff work schedules. The team carefully prepared for the operation, thinking through every detail. The day of the robbery arrived. Andrew and his men entered the Louvre disguised as tourists. They turned off the alarm systems and began removing paintings and statues that they had previously chosen as the most valuable. However, despite all the precautions, one of the museum employees noticed something was wrong and called the police. Andrew and his team are trapped. They quickly gathered and began to leave through underground passages, which they had prepared in advance for retreat. They managed to carry away only part of the loot, but even this was enough to provide them with a comfortable life for several years to come. Now Andrew knew that he could handle any challenge. His reputation in the criminal world continued to grow, and he was ready for new, even more daring operations. Andrew decided to temporarily lay low to relieve tension after the daring robbery of the Louvre. He went to a quiet corner of Switzerland, where he lived in a secluded chalet under a false name. But even there, his mind did not rest. He continued to make plans and analyze potential targets. In Switzerland, he learned about the famous bank vaults in Zurich, which store billions of dollars in gold, bullion, and jewelry. These vaults were considered impregnable, but for Andrew, this was just another challenge. He began collecting information about the bank's security systems and hiring the best hacking and hacking specialists. The preparation took many months. Andrew developed a complex plan that included introducing a fake employee into the bank, hacking electronic systems, and neutralizing security. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew's team acted as one unit, and they soon found themselves inside the vault. But suddenly their plan failed. The guards turned out to be more vigilant than they expected. Andrew and his team were trapped and had to act quickly. They used smoke grenades and ultrasonic devices to disorient the guards and escape from the building. They managed to capture only part of the gold, but even this was a huge success. Andrew knew that he needed to go as far as possible to escape pursuit. He headed to Asia, where new challenges awaited him. In Hong Kong, he learned about a large shipment of diamonds that were to be transported through the local port. Andrew realized that this was a great opportunity to recover losses and earn a decent amount. He began developing a plan that involved using forged documents and hacking the port's security system. The operation went flawlessly. Andrew and his team entered the port, broke into containers, and stole diamonds. This time, they managed to avoid any suspicion and quickly escape from the crime scene. This was one of the most successful robberies, and Andrew decided that it was time to take a little rest and enjoy the fruits of his labor. He settled in a luxurious villa on the coast of Thailand, where he lived under a new name and tried not to attract attention to himself. But even there, the thought of new robberies and new challenges did not leave him. Andrew began to study international routes for transporting valuable cargo and plan the next operations. One of these plans was the robbery of a large jewelry factory in Japan, where the most expensive jewelry in the world was produced. Andrew knew it would be difficult, but it was challenges like these that brought him true satisfaction. He again assembled a team of the best specialists and began preparations. On the night of the robbery, the team entered the plant disguised as employees. They hacked the security systems and began taking away precious jewelry. But suddenly, one of the plant workers appeared and noticed something was wrong. Andrew made a quick decision to neutralize the witness and speed up the loading process. They managed to complete the operation and leave the plant before the police arrived. This robbery was another triumph in Andrew's career. Now he was confident that he could cope with any challenge and began to plan new, even larger-scale operations. Ahead of him lay the robbery of one of the largest diamond storage facilities in the world, located in South Africa. Andrew knew it would be a real challenge, but it was operations like this that brought him not only money, but also the adrenaline that he was used to. The preparation took several months, but Andrew was confident of success. Andrew began planning the robbery of a diamond vault in South Africa with extreme care. He knew that this would be one of his most difficult and risky undertakings. The vault's security system was one of the most advanced in the world, and the slightest mistake could lead to disaster. Andrew went to South Africa, where, under the guise of a tourist, he began collecting information about the storage facility. He made connections with local crime bosses who helped him with logistics and provided him with fake documents. He also brought in the best cracking and hacking experts to bypass complex security systems. The team spent several months preparing. They examined all aspects of the vault's security, including security shift schedules and CCTV camera locations. Andrew developed a complex plan that involved the use of high-tech equipment and diversionary maneuvers. The day of the robbery arrived. Andrew's team began to act according to plan. Hackers hacked the security system and disabled surveillance cameras. Safecrackers quickly entered the vault, and the team began filling bags with diamonds. Everything was going smoothly, but suddenly the security system was activated and the guards began to converge on the infiltration site. Andrew quickly made the decision to speed up the operation and evacuate. They managed to seize a significant part of the diamonds and escape before the police arrived. The operation was successful, but the stress was incredible. Andrew knew that now he would be hunted even more closely. He decided to temporarily hide in Australia, where new challenges awaited him. In Sydney, he learned about a large shipment of gold that was to be transported through the local port. Andrew began developing a plan that involved using forged documents and hacking the port's security system. The operation in Sydney went flawlessly. Andrew's team entered the port, broke into containers, and stole gold. They managed to avoid any suspicion and quickly escape from the crime scene. This robbery was one of the most successful, and Andrew decided that it was time to enjoy the fruits of his labor. He moved to a quiet island in the Pacific Ocean, where he lived under a new name and tried not to attract attention to himself. But even there, the thought of new robberies and new challenges did not leave him. Andrew began to study international routes for transporting valuable cargo and plan the next operations. Andrew's next target was one of the largest banks in Shanghai. The bank was famous for its impenetrable security systems, and Andrew knew this would be a real challenge. He began collecting information about the bank's security system and hiring the best hacking specialists. The preparation took many months. Andrew developed a complex plan that included introducing a fake employee into the bank, hacking electronic systems, and neutralizing security. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew's team acted as one unit, and they soon found themselves inside the vault. But suddenly, their plan failed. The guards turned out to be more vigilant than they expected. Andrew and his team were trapped and had to act quickly. They used smoke grenades and ultrasonic devices to disorient the guards and escape from the building. They managed to capture only part of the gold, but even this was a huge success. Andrew knew that he needed to go as far as possible to escape pursuit. He headed to South America, where new challenges awaited him. In Brazil, he learned about a large shipment of diamonds that were to be transported through the local port. Andrew realized that this was a great opportunity to recover losses and earn a decent amount. He began developing a plan that involved using forged documents and hacking the port's security system. The operation in Brazil went flawlessly. Andrew and his team entered the port, broke into containers, and stole diamonds. This time, they managed to avoid any suspicion and quickly escape from the crime scene. This was one of the most successful robberies, and Andrew decided that it was time to take a little rest and enjoy the fruits of his labor. He settled in a luxurious villa on the coast of Uruguay, where he lived under a new name and tried not to attract attention to himself. But even there, the thought of new robberies and new challenges did not leave him. Andrew began to study international routes for transporting valuable cargo and plan the next operations. One of these plans was the robbery of a large jewelry factory in India, where the most expensive jewelry in the world was produced. Andrew knew it would be difficult, but it was challenges like these that brought him true satisfaction. He again assembled a team of the best specialists and began preparations. On the night of the robbery, the team entered the plant disguised as employees. They hacked the security systems and began taking away precious jewelry. But suddenly, one of the plant workers appeared and noticed something was wrong. Andrew made a quick decision to neutralize the witness and speed up the loading process. They managed to complete the operation and leave the plant before the police arrived. This robbery was another triumph in Andrew's career. Now he was confident that he could cope with any challenge and began to plan new, even larger-scale operations. Now he turned his attention to one of the largest cryptocurrency storage facilities in Switzerland, realizing that this would be a real challenge in his career. Andrew began preparing for the robbery of one of the largest cryptocurrency vaults in Switzerland with extreme care. He understood that in this case, he would need not only the skills of a hacker, but also deep knowledge in the field of information technology. Andrew assembled a team of top hackers and cybersecurity experts to develop a plan that would allow them to break into virtual vaults and steal digital assets. Months of preparation included studying the structure of the repository, analyzing system vulnerabilities, and developing sophisticated software tools for hacking. Andrew decided that the operation should take place in 2 stages. The first was hacking the security system and infiltrating the network. The second was the theft and safe evacuation of digital assets. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team began operating from the hideout of a rented chalet in the Alps. Hackers penetrated the storage security system and disabled security protocols, creating the illusion of normal operation. They then began hacking key servers to gain access to cryptocurrency wallets. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly The security system activated backup protocols. The operation was in jeopardy. Andrew quickly made the decision to speed up the process and complete the hack before the protection was fully activated. They managed to seize a significant portion of the cryptocurrency and escape before the vault employees discovered the intrusion. This success was huge, but Andrew understood that the attention of law enforcement agencies on him had increased significantly. He decided to temporarily hide and rest in a safe place before planning new operations. Andrew went to a small island in the Pacific Ocean where he lived under a new name, enjoying the peace and quiet. But even on the island, the thought of new challenges and opportunities did not leave him. He began studying international routes for transporting valuable cargo and analyzing potential targets. Soon his attention was attracted by one of the largest museums in the world, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Andrew understood that the robbery of such a museum would require the utmost caution and detailed preparation. He assembled a team of art and security specialists to develop a plan that would allow them to infiltrate the museum and steal valuable artifacts. Preparation included studying building plans, security shift schedules, and CCTV camera locations. The day of the robbery arrived. Andrew and his team entered the museum disguised as tourists. They turned off the alarm systems and began removing works of art that they had previously chosen as the most valuable. Suddenly, one of the museum employees noticed something was wrong and called the police. Andrew and his team were trapped, but acted quickly and smoothly. They used smoke bombs and diversions to disorient the guards and leave the building with the loot. They managed to carry away only part of the loot, but even this was enough to provide them with a comfortable life for several years to come. Once again, Andrew knew he needed to go into hiding temporarily and let the attention from law enforcement subside. He went to Asia, where new challenges awaited him. In Singapore, he learned about a large shipment of gold that was to be transported through the local port. Andrew began developing a plan that involved using forged documents and hacking the port's security system. The operation in Singapore went flawlessly. Andrew's team entered the port, broke into containers, and stole gold. They managed to avoid any suspicion and quickly escape from the crime scene. This was one of the most successful robberies, and Andrew decided that it was time to take a little rest and enjoy the fruits of his labor. He moved to a luxurious villa on the coast of Thailand where he lived under a new name and tried not to attract attention to himself. But even there, the thought of new robberies and new challenges did not leave him. Andrew began to study international routes for transporting valuable cargo and plan the next operations. Andrew's next target was one of the largest banks in Dubai. The bank was famous for its impenetrable security systems, and Andrew knew this would be a real challenge. He began collecting information about the bank's security system and hiring the best hacking specialists. The preparation took many months. Andrew developed a complex plan that included introducing a fake employee into the bank, hacking electronic systems, and neutralizing security. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew's team acted as one unit, and they soon found themselves inside the vault. But suddenly their plan failed. The guards turned out to be more vigilant than they expected. Andrew and his team were trapped and had to act quickly. They used smoke grenades and ultrasonic devices to disorient the guards and escape from the building. They managed to capture only part of the gold, but even this was a huge success. Andrew knew that he needed to go as far as possible to escape pursuit. He headed to South America, where new challenges awaited him. In Argentina, he learned about a large shipment of diamonds that were to be transported through the local port. Andrew realized that this was a great opportunity to recover losses and earn a decent amount. He began developing a plan that involved using forged documents and hacking the port's security system. The operation in Argentina went flawlessly. Andrew and his team entered the port, broke into containers, and stole diamonds. This time they managed to avoid any suspicion and quickly escape from the crime scene. This was one of the most successful robberies, and Andrew decided that it was time to take a little rest and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Andrew decided it was time for one of the most ambitious and complex heists of his career. He learned about a ship that was transporting a huge amount of jewelry from South Africa to Europe. This ship, the Royal Diamond, was equipped with the most advanced security systems and was accompanied by armed guards. But for Andrew, this was not an obstacle, but a challenge. He began to carefully develop a robbery plan, knowing that it would be one of the most dangerous operations. Andrew assembled his team, including the best hackers, crackers, and marine navigation specialists. The preparation included studying the ship's route, security system, and security patrol schedule. The first step was to obtain information about the exact route and departure time of the ship. Andrew used his connections and resources to install a fake employee into a jewelry logistics company. This agent gave him all the necessary information, and the team began to develop a detailed plan. Andrew decided that the operation would take place on the high seas, where the risk of collision with law enforcement agencies was minimal. They rented a small but powerful yacht, equipped with all the necessary equipment for breaking and entering. The team also developed an evacuation plan in case things didn't go according to plan. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his crew took to the open sea, choosing a point through which the Royal Diamond would pass. They prepared all the necessary equipment, including devices for hacking the ship's communications and security systems. Once the Royal Diamond was within their reach, the team swung into action. Hackers hacked the ship's communication system, disabling all alarms and surveillance cameras. They then sent out a false distress signal to distract the guards and crew. At that moment, Andrew's team on the yacht approached the ship and used special devices to open the sealed hatches and get on board. On the ship, the guards were at a loss due to a false distress signal, and Andrew's crew took advantage of this moment. They quickly neutralized the guards using stun devices and gas grenades. They then began to load the jewelry into the prepared containers. But suddenly one of the guards managed to sound an alarm, and the team realized that they had little time. Andrew ordered the loading process to be accelerated and preparations for evacuation. They managed to grab most of the jewelry and leave the ship before help arrived. Andrew's team returned to their yacht and quickly fled the crime scene, leaving behind only a light trail in the open sea. They headed to a pre-prepared evacuation point where transport was waiting for them for further movement. The robbery was successful, but Andrew knew that it was one of the riskiest things he had ever done. With a huge amount of jewelry in hand, Andrew and his crew headed to a safe place where they could divide the loot and lay low. They knew that law enforcement agencies and international agents would be looking for them, so they decided to temporarily hide in different parts of the world. Andrew went to Asia, where he settled in Hong Kong under a new name. But even there, he did not forget about new challenges and opportunities. His life was filled with adrenaline and continuous plans for the future. Each new challenge only strengthened his resolve and desire to remain an elusive heist master. Andrew enjoyed the temporary peace in Hong Kong, but soon realized that he could not remain in the shadows for long. His mind was constantly busy with new ideas and plans. He had heard about a legendary jewelry collection belonging to one of Asia's richest men, who kept his treasures in an underground bunker beneath his mansion in Shanghai. This collection was known as the Dragon Treasure and included rare artifacts and jewelry worth billions of dollars. Andrew was intrigued and decided that this would be his next goal. He began collecting information about the owner of the collection, the bunker's security system, and the layout of the mansion. Andrew hired the best intelligence and security specialists to develop a detailed plan for the robbery. He knew that this time he would have to face the most modern security technologies and a high degree of security. The first step was to introduce a fake employee into the mansion's security team. This agent was able to convey important information to Andrew about security hours, security camera locations, and alarm systems. Andrew and his team developed a complex plan that included the use of high-tech equipment, distractions, and artificial intelligence. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team entered the mansion under the guise of service personnel. They used special devices to disable surveillance cameras and open electronic locks. Upon entering the underground bunker, they encountered several layers of defense, including laser barriers and biometric scanners. Andrew knew they didn't have much time. They used precision laser drones to bypass laser barriers and fake biometrics for scanners. They soon found themselves in the heart of the bunker where the dragon treasures were kept. The team quickly began filling bags with jewelry and artifacts. But suddenly, a hidden security system was activated, and a protracted battle began in the bunker. Andrew and his team were forced to improvise. They used smoke grenades and ultrasonic devices to disorient the guards and leave the bunker with the loot. They managed to evade capture and escape from the crime scene. Andrew understood that this robbery would attract a lot of attention, so he decided to temporarily hide in one of the most remote corners of the world, on an island in the Pacific Ocean. He and his team divided the loot and agreed to go their separate ways for a while to throw law enforcement off their scent. But Andrew couldn't stay idle for long. On the island, he began to develop a new plan, which promised to be the largest and most daring robbery of his career. He learned of a secret operation to transport large quantities of rough diamonds through Antarctica. This operation was classified and protected by international security forces. Andrew decided that this would be his next challenge. He assembled a team including the best specialists in survival in extreme conditions, hackers, and engineers. Preparations for this operation took many months, and Andrew's team studied all aspects of the route and security systems. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team traveled to Antarctica on a specially equipped vessel equipped with the latest technology. They used drones for reconnaissance and hacked satellite surveillance systems to avoid detection. When the diamond convoy came within their range, the team began to act. They used specialized vehicles to reach the convoy and used high-tech equipment to hack security systems. They soon found themselves at the center of the operation, and a fight with the guards began. Andrew and his team used all their skills and equipment to capture the diamonds and escape until reinforcements arrived. The operation was a success, and Andrew knew that he was now one of the most wanted figures in the world. He and his crew headed to safety to divide up the loot and lay low. But even then, Andrew couldn't stop. A new plan was already maturing in his head: to rob one of the most guarded banks in the world, located in the very heart of Tokyo. Andrew and his team successfully escaped after a robbery in Antarctica, but they knew that now the whole world would be hunting them. They needed to carefully prepare for the next operation to avoid arrest and ensure their safety. Andrew chose Tokyo not by chance. This city was one of the largest financial centers in the world, and the bank he targeted was famous for its inaccessibility. The Imperial Security Bank was known for its modern security systems and an army of guards working around the clock. Andrew understood that this operation would require maximum preparation and team coordination. He began collecting information about the bank, its structure and security. Using forged documents and connections, Andrew managed to infiltrate his people into the bank's service staff so they could gather the necessary information from the inside. The preparation took many months. The team examined every aspect of the bank's security, including security shift schedules, camera placement, and motion sensors. Andrew recruited top hackers and engineers to create devices that could hack security systems and disable alarms. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team infiltrated the bank under the guise of technical personnel conducting a routine system check. They used the latest devices to disable surveillance cameras and break into electronic locks. They soon found themselves in a vault containing huge amounts of cash, jewelry, and securities. However, despite all the careful preparation, the operation encountered unforeseen difficulties. One of the bank employees working the night shift noticed something was wrong and called security. Andrew and his team are trapped and a fight with the guards ensues. They used smoke grenades and paralyzing devices to disorient their opponents and buy time. Andrew quickly made the decision to speed up the loading process and evacuate. They managed to capture a significant part of the contents of the vault and escape through underground tunnels that they had prepared in advance. But this time, the chase was close. Police and security forces quickly responded and began combing the area. Andrew's team climbed to the surface and headed to the pre-prepared vehicles. They left Tokyo, leaving a trail of destruction and confused guards in their wake. Andrew knew that now the whole world was looking for them, and they needed to temporarily lie low. Andrew decided to go to South America, where he had connections and safe hideouts. They set up camp in the Amazon jungle, where they could rest and consider their next steps. But even there, Andrew could not stop. He knew they needed to be one step ahead of their pursuers. His attention was drawn to a major jewelry exhibition in Rio de Janeiro, where unique jewelry and works of art from all over the world were to be presented. Andrew understood that this was a great opportunity not only to make money, but also to divert attention from previous robberies. He began developing a new plan that included the use of high-tech devices and elaborate distractions. The team spent several weeks preparing, studying the exhibition center layout and security schedule. The day of the robbery arrived. Andrew and his team entered the exhibition under the guise of representatives of the press. They used special devices to disable alarms and open protective cases. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly one of the guards noticed something was wrong and raised the alarm. Andrew and his team had to act quickly. They used smoke grenades and ultrasonic devices to disorient guards and visitors. They managed to seize a significant part of the jewelry and escape before the police arrived. The operation was successful, but Andrew knew that now they needed to lay low again and carefully plan their further actions. The team went to a hidden refuge on one of the Caribbean islands, where they could calmly distribute the spoils and think about new plans. Andrew knew that with each new robbery, their risks increased, but it was precisely these types of challenges that attracted him. He had already begun to develop new ideas that promised to be even more daring and ambitious. Thus began the next chapter in the lives of Andrew and his team, filled with adrenaline, danger, and the never-ending hunt for riches. Andrew and his team were enjoying the temporary peace in the Caribbean, but the thought of a new challenge was looming. He wanted to do something unusual, something that would forever remain in the history of the criminal world. In the evening, sitting on the terrace of his hidden refuge, he pondered a new plan. Soon his attention was drawn to news of an upcoming summit of world leaders, which was to be held on a luxury yacht in the Mediterranean Sea. This summit was planned to discuss global economic issues, and among the guests were many of the richest people on the planet. Andrew understood that there would be a huge amount of valuable things and important documents on board the yacht. He began collecting information about the summit, the yacht, and the security system. It was not an easy task, as the security for such an event was some of the best in the world, but it was challenges like these that inspired Andrew. Preparation began with the formation of a team. He attracted top maritime operations specialists, hackers, and security experts. Andrew knew that success depended on careful preparation and teamwork. They developed a plan that included infiltrating agents onto the yacht under the guise of service personnel and using high-tech devices to bypass security systems. The day of the summit has arrived. The yacht, equipped with the most modern technology, was anchored in a picturesque bay. Andrew and his team infiltrated the ship under the guise of event staff. They began to act as the evening drew to a climax, and the guards' attention was weakened due to the gala dinner. Hackers hacked video surveillance and alarm systems, disabling them for a short period of time. Andrew and his men quickly entered the cabins where valuables and important documents were kept. They filled bags with jewelry, paintings, and secret papers. However, unexpectedly, the security system activated hidden protocols, and the yacht began to block all exits. Andrew knew they didn't have much time. He quickly got his bearings and gave the order to speed up the evacuation process. The team used smoke bombs and ultrasonic devices to confuse security and guests. Andrew and his crew, loaded with loot, headed to the prepared boat, which was waiting for them at a safe distance. They managed to leave the yacht before security, and police had time to give chase. The operation was successful, but the stress was incredible. The team headed to a pre-prepared shelter on a Greek island, where they could safely divide the spoils and lie low. But even there, Andrew could not remain idle. He began to analyze global economic trends and study international financial markets. Soon his attention was drawn to an idea that promised to be a real breakthrough. Andrew learned about a major international banking conference that was to be held in Dubai. This conference attracted senior banking executives from around the world and discussed issues related to global investment and the security of financial transactions. Andrew realized that this was not only an opportunity for another daring heist, but also a chance to gain access to inside information that could change his life forever. He began developing a plan that included infiltrating agents into the conference, hacking security systems, and gaining access to classified information. The preparation took several months. The team studied plans for the building where the conference was to be held and security schedules. Andrew brought in top cybersecurity and espionage experts to create a plan that would be as effective and undetectable as possible. The day of the conference arrived. Andrew and his team entered the building under the guise of participants and staff. They used special devices to hack security systems and gain access to private sessions and databases. The team began downloading classified information onto secure media and copying data on major financial transactions. But suddenly their plan was revealed. One of the security officers noticed something was wrong and raised the alarm. Andrew and his team were trapped but acted quickly and decisively. They used smoke grenades and diversionary maneuvers to disorient the guards and leave the building with the information they received. The operation was successful, and the team escaped in previously prepared vehicles. Andrew knew that he now had access to information that could change his life and give him new opportunities for further action. He headed to one of his hideouts in Asia, where he could calmly ponder the findings and develop new plans. Thus began a new chapter in the lives of Andrew and his team, filled with new challenges, risks, and opportunities that promised to make them even richer and more powerful. Andrew and his team were enjoying success after a daring heist in Dubai, but their thirst for adrenaline and desire for new challenges kept them from staying put for long. At one of his hideouts in Asia, Andrew learned of a large train shipment of money that would pass through several European countries. The train, called the Golden Express, was specially equipped to transport huge amounts of cash between Europe's central banks. Andrew knew this would be one of the most ambitious and complex plans yet. The train was equipped with the most modern security systems and was also accompanied by armed guards. But for Andrew, this was only an additional incentive. He gathered his team and began developing a plan that included several stages: hacking security systems, neutralizing security, and safely moving the loot. Preparations began with a detailed study of the train route and its schedule. Andrew hired some of the best rail systems and safety experts to come up with the perfect plan. The team studied every aspect, from security patrol schedules to train specifications. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team infiltrated the train under the guise of maintenance personnel and engineers. They used special devices to disable surveillance cameras and break into electronic locks. The team quickly entered the carriages where the money was kept. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly the train's security system was activated and security began to converge on the site of the intrusion. Andrew and his team acted quickly. They used smoke grenades and stun devices to confuse the guards and buy time to complete the operation. The team began filling bags with money when time became a critical factor. They knew that every second was worth its weight in gold. Eventually, Andrew decided it was time to evacuate. They managed to grab about 200 million euros in cash before they left the train. Andrew and his team prepared escape routes in advance. They used helicopters to quickly leave the robbery site and escape before reinforcements arrived. The operation was successful, but the stress was incredible. They headed to a previously prepared shelter in the Alps, where they could divide the spoils and lie low. With a sum of 200 million euros in his hands, Andrew understood that now all of Europe was looking for them. They needed to be extremely careful and think through their next steps. He decided that they would have to lie low for a while and let the attention of law enforcement agencies subside. Andrew's team scattered to different parts of the world, but even in such moments, Andrew did not stop thinking about new challenges and opportunities. He began to analyze international financial markets and look for ways to legalize the money he earned. New targets appeared on his horizon, and he knew that new, even more daring operations awaited them. Thus began a new chapter in the lives of Andrew and his team, filled with new challenges, risks, and opportunities that promised to make them even richer and more powerful. After successfully robbing the Golden Express and temporarily hiding in the Alps, Andrew and his team began planning their next steps. They understood that legalizing such a huge amount of money would require not only caution, but also creativity. Andrew decided that they needed to infiltrate the world of high technology and use the power of cryptocurrencies to launder money. Andrew learned about a major blockchain conference that was going to be held in Las Vegas. This conference attracted the best experts in cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies from all over the world. Andrew decided that this was an ideal opportunity to penetrate this area and find ways to legalize his funds. The team went to Las Vegas disguised as conference participants. They began to establish connections with leading experts and study the latest trends in the world of cryptocurrencies. Andrew realized that in order to successfully legalize, they needed to create their own cryptocurrency exchange, which would allow them to safely withdraw funds and conduct large financial transactions. At the conference, they met a talented young programmer named Alex, who was willing to help them for a generous reward. Alex developed a plan to create a cryptocurrency exchange that would be legal on the surface, but would allow for illegal transactions behind the scenes. The team began implementing this plan, investing part of their funds in developing the platform and attracting customers. Thanks to their newfound cryptocurrency exchange, Andrew and his team were able to legalize most of their funds and start living large. But despite this, Andrew could not stop. He longed for new challenges and adventures. His attention was drawn to rumors of a large shipment of gold bullion that was to be transported across the Atlantic Ocean on a cargo ship. This transport was organized by the largest banks in Europe and the USA and was carefully guarded. Andrew realized this was the perfect opportunity for another daring heist. He began developing a plan that involved using underwater drones and specialized equipment to break into the ship's holds. Andrew knew that the operation would be difficult and risky, but this only fueled his desire to act. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team used speedboats and underwater drones to reach a cargo ship in the open ocean. They disabled the ship's video surveillance and alarm systems using hacking methods and began opening the holds where the gold bars were stored. The operation was going according to plan, but suddenly the backup security system was activated and the guards began to act. Andrew and his team used smoke grenades and stun devices to confuse the guards and buy time. They managed to capture a significant amount of gold bars and escape before reinforcements arrived. Andrew and his crew returned to shore with a haul worth millions of dollars. They headed to a previously prepared shelter where they could calmly divide the spoils and lie low. But even there, Andrew did not stop thinking about new plans and opportunities. Now, with a huge amount of gold and legalized funds, Andrew decided it was time to take things to the next level. He began to study global financial markets and look for ways to influence them. Plans were brewing in his head that could change not only his life, but also the global economy. Thus began a new chapter in the lives of Andrew and his team, filled with new challenges, risks, and opportunities that promised to make them even richer and more powerful. Ahead of them lay new daring operations and exciting adventures that would forever go down in the history of the criminal world. Andrew and his team enjoyed their wealth and success, but their ambitions knew no bounds. After a daring heist of a gold cargo, they decided it was time to take things to the next level and start influencing global financial markets. Andrew had something truly big in mind, an operation that could not only bring them a huge fortune, but also change the world economy. He began studying international financial systems and discovered that some of the world's largest banks were negotiating the creation of a new global financial center in Dubai. This center was to become a major hub for major financial transactions and attract trillions of dollars in investment. Andrew realized that if he could penetrate this center and gain control of its systems, he could carry out the most daring operation of his career. The team began to prepare for a new operation. They recruited top hackers, security specialists, and financial experts to develop a plan that would allow them to infiltrate the global financial center and gain access to its systems. The preparation took several months, and every step was thought out to the smallest detail. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team entered the building under the guise of representatives of a large technology company, which allegedly offered its security services. Their elaborate legends and forged documents allowed them to enter the heart of the financial center. Hackers began breaking into security systems, and financial experts were gaining access to key databases. Andrew personally supervised every step of the operation to ensure everything went according to plan. They penetrated the financial transaction management system and began copying data on the largest transactions and accounts. But suddenly the security system was activated, and the guards began to converge on the site of the intrusion. Andrew realized they didn't have much time. He gave the order to speed up the process and prepare for evacuation. The team managed to capture a significant amount of data and copies of transactions before they left the building. The operation was successful, but the stress was incredible. Andrew and his team headed to a pre-prepared shelter in the desert where they could safely analyze the data they received. They discovered that they now had access to information that could revolutionize the world economy. With this data, Andrew began to develop a plan to create his own global financial network that could compete with the largest banks in the world. He understood that this would require not only huge funds but also powerful allies. Andrew began looking for partners among the most influential people and organizations to bring his plan to life. Meanwhile, law enforcement agencies and the world's largest banks began hunting for Andrew and his team. They became the most wanted criminals in the world, but this only fueled their determination and thirst for new challenges. Andrew and his team began to build their financial network, attracting investors and clients from all over the world. Their system became known as Alpha Bank, and it offered unique services and a high degree of security that attracted many large clients. Soon, Alpha Bank became a serious player in the global financial market. Andrew knew they couldn't stay in the shadows for long. He began developing a new operation that could become his greatest success. His attention was drawn to information about a major transaction for the sale of rare land plots in London, the value of which amounted to billions of dollars. Andrew decided that this would be his next goal. He began developing a plan that included hacking security systems, forging documents, and manipulating property records. The team began preparations, studying every aspect of the deal and security systems to ensure the success of the operation. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team entered the building of the company involved in the deal and began hacking the security systems. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly the system detected an intrusion and the security began to act. Andrew and his team acted quickly and decisively. They used smoke grenades and diversions to confuse the guards and complete the operation. They managed to capture the necessary data and leave the building before reinforcements arrived. The operation was successful, and Andrew now had all the necessary documents and data to complete the transaction. Andrew and his team successfully completed a transaction in London, capturing the necessary documents and data to complete the sale of rare land. They were now richer and more powerful than ever. But Andrew understood that they were under increasing pressure from law enforcement and competitors. Not only did they need to defend their position, but they also had to keep moving forward to stay one step ahead. At this time, Andrew learned about a new project in Europe, the construction of the largest data center in the world, which was to become the main hub for storing and processing data from major corporations and governments. This project attracted huge investments and attention from the most influential people on the planet. Andrew decided that this would be his next goal. His plan was bold and ambitious. He decided not only to steal data, but also to embed his devices into the data center system in order to have constant access to information. This would allow him to control data flows and obtain inside information that could change the rules of the game in the global market. Preparations began with the introduction of agents to construction sites and companies involved in project development. Andrew used his connections and resources to gain access to the building's plans and security systems. He hired top cybersecurity and espionage experts to develop devices that could infiltrate the data center systems undetected. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team entered the construction site under the guise of workers. They began installing devices at key points in the building, while hacking security systems and bypassing surveillance cameras. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly their presence was discovered. Security began to converge on the site of the infiltration, and Andrew realized that they had little time. He gave the order to speed up the installation of devices and prepare for evacuation. The team acted quickly and coordinatedly. They managed to install all the devices and leave the area before reinforcements arrived. The operation was successful, and Andrew now had permanent access to one of the largest data warehouses in the world. This opened up new opportunities for him to manipulate markets and obtain insider information. But he understood that it also attracted the attention of the most powerful and influential people on the planet. Using access to data, Andrew began to establish relationships with major corporations and financial institutions. He began offering them unique services that allowed companies to access critical information and make transactions that could change their fortunes. Soon, Alpha Bank became one of the most influential players in the world market. But Andrew didn't stop there. He began to develop a new plan that could surpass all previous operations. His attention was drawn to rumors of a large shipment of rare gems that were to be transported across Africa on a private jet. These stones were unique and had enormous value on the black market. Andrew began developing a plan that included hacking the airport's security systems, neutralizing the guards, and hijacking the plane in mid-air. The team spent several weeks preparing, studying routes and schedules, and developing special equipment for the operation. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team entered the airport under the guise of service personnel. They hacked security systems and disabled surveillance cameras. Once the plane took off, the team used a specially equipped helicopter to reach it in the air. They entered the plane through the hatch and quickly neutralized the guards. Andrew and his team began filling bags with gemstones. But suddenly the plane's pilot sounded an alarm, and the crew realized they were running out of time. They quickly completed the operation and left the plane by helicopter, leaving only a light trail in the sky. The operation was successful, and the team headed to a previously prepared shelter where they could calmly divide the prey and lie low. But even there, Andrew did not stop thinking about new plans and opportunities. Now, with a huge amount of gems and access to the world's largest data, Andrew decided it was time to take it to the next level. He began to develop a plan that could change the world economy and make him the most powerful man on the planet. Andrew and his team enjoyed their success, but they did not know that they were being closely watched by one of the best detectives in the world. Detective James Raymond, known for his relentless persistence and outstanding analytical skills, took on Andrew's case. He was confident that he could stop them and return the stolen millions. James began his investigation by analyzing all the known robberies committed by Andrew and his team. He noted that all the crimes were carefully planned and were distinguished by a high level of professionalism. James realized that he was dealing with an unusual criminal who acted with cold-blooded precision. Using his connections and access to international databases, James began to track financial flows and look for traces of the laundering of stolen funds. He quickly discovered Alpha Bank and began to study its activities. James realized that Andrew was using this financial structure to launder money and manage his operations. One day, James received information about a planned robbery in Africa. He realized that this was a great opportunity to catch Andrew in the act. James traveled to Africa and began working with local authorities to prepare to capture the criminals. The day of the robbery arrived. Andrew and his team entered the airport under the guise of service personnel. They hacked security systems and disabled surveillance cameras, unaware that James and his team were already ready to take action. As the plane took off, James sprang into action. Using his experience and knowledge, James organized the interception of Andrew's helicopter. He used a local security helicopter and followed Andrew's team, waiting for the right moment to attack. As Andrew and his men boarded the plane and began filling bags with gems, James gave the signal to attack. The surgery didn't go according to plan for Andrew. Suddenly, security forces descended on them and a fierce firefight began. Andrew and his team used smoke grenades and stun devices to confuse the guards and buy time. They managed to leave the plane by helicopter, but they realized that they were being chased. James and his team were not far behind. They chased Andrew's helicopter through the sky, preparing to hijack it. Andrew knew they had to come up with an escape plan. He gave the order to change course and head for a previously prepared shelter in the jungle. When Andrew's helicopter landed in the dense jungle, the team quickly fled, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. James and his men continued their pursuit, but it was difficult to find the criminals in the jungle. Andrew used his knowledge of survival in extreme conditions to cover his tracks and avoid capture. After several hours of searching, James realized that Andrew had managed to escape. He returned to camp and began analyzing the data he had collected. James knew this was not the end and was ready to continue the hunt. He knew that Andrew now knew of his existence and would be even more careful, but this only fueled his resolve. Meanwhile, Andrew and his team disappeared into the depths of the jungle. They understood that they were being pursued by one of the best detectives in the world, and they needed to be one step ahead. Andrew began to develop new plans and strategies to continue his operations and avoid capture. Andrew decided that they needed to lay low for a while and reconsider their actions. They headed to a hidden refuge where they could consider their next steps and prepare for new challenges. Andrew knew they would now have to be even smarter and more careful to remain elusive. James, in turn, did not give up. He continued to analyze the data and look for clues that could lead him to Andrew. He knew that sooner or later they would make a mistake, and he was ready to take any chance to catch them. Andrew and his team hunkered down in a hidden jungle hideout. devising new plans and contemplating their next steps. They knew that Detective James Raymond would not give up so easily, but they underestimated his ability to act decisively and quickly. Meanwhile, James continued his investigation, closely monitoring Andrew's team's every move. The detective used his connections and resources to organize a large-scale operation to capture the criminals. He knew that Andrew would be careful and cover his tracks carefully, but he decided to use the element of surprise. James developed a plan that involved a surprise attack on Andrew's hideout using local security forces. The day of the operation arrived. James and his team, armed to the teeth and equipped with the latest technology, began to surround the shelter. They acted quickly and harmoniously, leaving no chance for the criminals to escape. When the assault began, Andrew and his men found themselves trapped. Andrew's team tried to fight back using all available means, but the forces were unequal. As a result of an intense battle, James managed to capture half of the gang, including some key participants in the operations. Andrew understood that the situation was critical and decided to save the remaining people and himself. He used pre-prepared escape tunnels and, along with the remaining gang members, left the shelter, leaving behind destroyed fortifications and captured comrades. Andrew and a few loyal crew members fled into the jungle, knowing that they were now being pursued not only by James, but also by international security forces. James was pleased with the partial success of the operation, but realized that the main target, Andrew, was still at large. He began interrogating the captured criminals, trying to obtain information about Andrew's whereabouts and his plans. James knew time was against him and he needed to act quickly. Andrew, in turn, decided to change tactics. He realized that now they needed to be even more careful and secretive. They headed to a previously prepared shelter in one of the remote villages where they could temporarily lay low and develop a new plan. Andrew gathered the remaining team members and began to analyze what had happened. He realized that he had underestimated James and his abilities, and it cost him the loss of half his gang. Now he needed to develop a new plan that would allow him to return his captured comrades and strike back. Andrew decided to use cunning and deception to lure James into a trap. He knew that the detective would be looking for him and would not rest until he caught him. Andrew began spreading false information about his plans and location, hoping to confuse James and buy him time. Meanwhile, James did not stop searching. He carefully analyzed all the data and tried not to fall for Andrew's tricks. James understood that every step of the criminals could be a trap and was prepared for any surprises. Andrew and his team began preparing an operation to free their captured comrades. They developed a plan that included diversions and the use of new technologies to hack security systems. Andrew knew it would be difficult and risky, but he was willing to do anything to save his people. The day of the operation arrived. Andrew and his team took action. They used false documents and diversions to enter the compound where their comrades were being held. A fight with the guards soon began, and the team acted quickly and decisively. Andrew personally supervised every step of the operation, and they were soon able to free their captured comrades. But suddenly, they encountered James, who had expected such a development of events. A fierce firefight began, and Andrew knew that they urgently needed to evacuate. Using previously prepared escape routes, Andrew and his team fled the operation, leaving destruction and confused guards in their wake. They managed to free their people and avoid capture, but they understood that now they would be hunted even more brutally. Thus began a new chapter in the life of Andrew and his team, filled with new challenges, risks, and an ongoing hunt. Ahead of them were new daring operations and exciting adventures that would forever go down in the history of the criminal world, and confrontation with one of the best detectives. Andrew and his team escaped after a daring operation to free their comrades, but Detective James Raymond was not about to give up. He knew he had a unique opportunity to catch one of the world's most wanted criminals, and he was determined to see it through. James began to analyze all possible traces and study Andrew's methods to find his weak point. During his investigation, James discovered that Andrew always acts with impeccable precision and carefully plans his operations. However, he also noticed that Andrew always left minimal but repeating traces that could be followed. James began looking for these traces in Andrew's financial transactions, movements, and contacts. The detective managed to find the weak link, one of the small informants who helped Andrew with logistics. James decided to use it to infiltrate Andrew's network and gather more information. He offered the informant a deal, protection and a reduced sentence in exchange for help in catching Andrew. With the help of an informant, James began tracking the movements of Andrew's team and their contacts. He learned that Andrew was planning a new major operation to rob one of the most protected banks in Europe, the Swiss National Bank. It was an incredibly ambitious plan that, if successful, would have made Andrew billions. James decided this was the perfect moment to seize. He began coordinating the operation with local law enforcement and international agencies to create an invisible network around Andrew. James devised a plan that involved creating false leads to lure Andrew into a trap. The day of the robbery arrived. Andrew and his team entered the bank building under the guise of service personnel. Security systems were hacked and safes were opened. Everything went according to plan, but Andrew did not suspect that James was already one step ahead. James and his team carefully prepared for the capture. They surrounded the bank building and blocked all possible escape routes. As Andrew and his team began to leave the bank with their loot, they were met by security forces. A fierce battle began. Andrew and his men tried to fight back using all available means, but the forces were unequal. James personally led the operation, monitoring the criminals' every move. He knew this was his only chance to catch Andrew. Andrew realized he was trapped. He tried to find a way out, but all paths were blocked. James used his knowledge of Andrew's methods to anticipate his actions and block every escape attempt. Ultimately, Andrew found himself in a bind. James and his team surrounded Andrew. Realizing he had no choice, Andrew gave up. James handcuffed him personally, feeling the satisfaction of successfully completing a years-long hunt. Andrew and his remaining men were arrested and taken to Interpol headquarters, where they faced numerous charges. James knew his job wasn't done yet. He had to gather all the evidence and ensure that Andrew and his team received the punishment they deserved. Andrew's story ended in a courtroom where he was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison. James Raymond became a hero, receiving recognition for his tireless work and outstanding analytical skills. Thus ended one of the most exciting chapters in the history of the criminal world. But for James, it was just another successful case in his career. He knew that new challenges and new criminals awaited him ahead who would need to be stopped. Second story of the criminal. Since childhood, Liam Hudson has shown incredible resourcefulness and ingenuity. He was born in a small town in Colorado, where his family lived in poverty. Already in his early years, Liam began stealing small items from local stores to help his family make ends meet. But his real talents showed when he accidentally stumbled upon an old train station. Liam grew up in a home full of love but devoid of material goods. His father worked in a mine, and his mother was a cleaner at a local school. Money was tight, and Liam often wore old, threadbare clothes to school, making him a target for ridicule from his classmates. But this only strengthened his spirit. One of his favorite pastimes was listening to the stories of the old engineer, Mr. Jenkins, who sometimes sat on a bench near the station and smoked his pipe. Mr. Jenkins told stories of long journeys, adventures, and, of course, trains. These stories captivated Liam and fueled his dreams of a different life. Liam often stayed at the station after school, watching the trains and studying their routes. He noticed that trains carrying cargo were particularly interesting. Their security was weaker, and the cargo was often valuable. Liam began to develop a plan to steal something from these trains. His first real raid happened when he was 18 years old. Liam gathered a small team of his friends who also wanted to escape poverty. They chose a coal train and planned everything down to the last detail. At night, they made their way to the train and successfully hijacked several wagons full of coal. Selling coal brought them a good amount of money, and this was just the beginning. Buoyed by their success, Liam and his friends began planning their next raid. They realized that coal, although profitable, was not as valuable as other cargoes. Liam began looking for trains carrying more valuable goods such as gold, silver, and precious stones. With each new raid, their plans became more sophisticated and bold. Liam developed a system for tracking train schedules to select the most profitable targets. He also learned to bribe railroad workers to obtain information about the routes and contents of the cars. However, as their success grew, so did their danger. The police are hunting for a mysterious train robber, and security on trains has been tightened. Liam knew they needed to be even more careful and thoughtful. One of the most dangerous and complex raids was a raid on a train carrying a shipment of gold from the mines of California. Liam carefully prepared for this raid. He developed a plan that included distracting the guards, bribing the driver, and using special tools to open the cars. At night, as the train passed through a narrow canyon, Liam's team staged a fake accident to stop the train. At this time, Liam and his men quickly and silently entered the freight cars and began unloading boxes of gold. Everything went smoothly, and they managed to escape before the police arrived. This raid made Liam and his team even richer and more famous. But with wealth came new problems. The police stepped up their efforts to catch the robbers, and Liam had to go into hiding even more and change his methods. Despite all the difficulties, Liam was not going to stop. He continued to plan and carry out raids, constantly improving his skills and expanding his team. His name became a legend, and each new raid became a topic for discussion and speculation. With each new success, Liam became more and more convinced that his place was at the top. He continued to look for new, more complex and dangerous goals, not knowing that the biggest test of his life lay ahead of him. Liam Hudson and his team have become true masters of their craft. Their raids became more and more daring, and they acquired a reputation as elusive robbers. However, fame and fortune attracted the attention not only of the police, but also of rival gangs who wanted to get a piece of Liam's loot. One day, Liam learned about a train that was carrying not only gold, but also rare gems for New York jewelry houses. This was a rare opportunity, and Liam couldn't pass it up. He began to carefully prepare for this raid, realizing that this would be one of his most difficult and risky undertakings. Liam has assembled a team that has been tested by time and many successful operations. They developed a detailed plan, including bribing station workers and creating a distraction for the guards. The raid was planned for a dark, moonless night when visibility was minimal. When the day of the operation arrived, everything went according to plan. Liam and his men infiltrated the station and mined several tracks to distract the guards. While the guards were busy with the false alarm, Liam and his crew quietly made their way onto the train and began unloading the gems and gold. But this time, their luck changed. Suddenly, a police squad arrived at the station, having received a tip from one of the rival bandits. A shootout began. Liam understood that there was little chance of getting out without losses, but he was not going to give up. They began to retreat, shooting as they went and trying to carry away as much loot as possible. Liam and his men managed to escape into the forest, but the losses were significant. Several crew members were wounded, and some of the spoils had to be abandoned. Liam knew that now they would be persecuted even more actively. Despite the difficulties, Liam did not lose heart. He knew he had to change his methods and become even more careful. They took refuge in an abandoned house on the outskirts of the city, where they healed their wounds and made new plans. Liam knew there would be even greater challenges ahead, but he was prepared for them. He understood that every new raid was a step towards the top, and he was not going to stop. There was a new, even more ambitious plan ahead, which was supposed to make them the richest train robbers in history. Liam and his team continued to rebuild in the abandoned house. They knew that they could not stay in one place for long, and they needed to figure out how to escape persecution. Liam realized they needed to change tactics and raid locations to confuse the police. He decided to temporarily leave his native Colorado and move east to densely populated states, where it was easier to get lost among the crowds and find new, less guarded targets. The next target was a train transporting valuable goods from Boston to New York. Liam carefully studied the route and developed a plan that would go without a hitch. They reached Boston and lay low, collecting information about the train. Liam used old connections to gain access to train schedules and contents. He hired several new people to strengthen the team to compensate for the losses incurred in the previous operation. When the day of the new raid arrived, Liam's team was more prepared than ever. They positioned themselves along the route, preparing everything necessary for the quick and silent capture of the train. At night, when the train was traveling along an abandoned section of the track, the team quickly and smoothly took control of several cars, taking away all the valuable cargo. They left no trace and disappeared into the darkness like shadows. This raid became one of the most successful in Liam's career. The loot was huge, and they were able to escape without a single clue for the police. This strengthened their reputation and allowed them to continue their business with even greater confidence. Meanwhile, the police intensified their efforts to catch Liam's gang. They assembled a special group that studied every step of the robbers, hoping to find at least some clue. But Liam was too smart to leave any traces. Despite the successful raids, Liam felt tensions rising. He knew that their luck could not last forever, and they must find new ways to avoid capture. Liam began to think about leaving America and starting a new life in another country where they would not be looked for. But for now, his team was full of enthusiasm and ready for new adventures. Liam decided that their next step would be to raid a train carrying valuable works of art from New York museums to Washington. This raid required even more careful preparation, but also promised a huge reward. Liam and his team began to develop a plan that was to become their most notorious and daring crime. Liam and his team began careful preparations for the raid on the art train. They collected all available information about the route, security, and contents of the cars. This raid required not only courage, but also a high degree of precision. A mistake could cost them their freedom or even their lives. To prepare, Liam decided to involve specialists. He found an experienced safecracker and an electronics expert to ensure successful entry into the secure carriages. The team developed several contingency scenarios to minimize risks. That night, as the train headed from New York to Washington, Liam and his crew were ready. They chose a section of track where the train had to slow down on a steep descent. This was the perfect place to attack. A burglar and an electronics expert entered the train, disarming the alarms and breaking the locks on the cars. Liam's team worked quickly and efficiently. They unloaded valuable paintings, sculptures, and other works of art, carefully packed in protective containers. Everything went according to plan, and they managed to escape before security arrived. After this raid, Liam and his team became even richer and more famous. The works of art were sold on the black market for huge sums, which allowed Liam to think about his next step. He understood that with each new success, the danger increases, and it is necessary to look for ways to minimize risks. Liam decided it was time to change tactics and scene. He suggested that his team go to Europe, where the opportunities for such raids were no less extensive. It was a risky decision, but the team supported it. They began to prepare for the move, collecting all the necessary documents and preparing a plan for transporting the production. Liam chose Paris as his new base. The city was famous for its rich museums and galleries, as well as its extensive railway network, which opened up new opportunities for raids. They rented a luxurious mansion on the outskirts of the city, which became their headquarters. The first target in Europe was a train carrying a collection of rare jewelry from London to Rome. Liam developed a detailed plan that included not only seizing the cargo, but also quickly transporting it across borders. This required coordination and cooperation with local criminal elements, but Liam was confident of success. When the night of the operation arrived, Liam and his team acted with their usual precision and coordination. They hijacked the train on a section of track in the Alps where traffic was slow and conditions favored secrecy. The operation was successful and they were able to transport the loot to Paris without a single blemish. This raid strengthened their reputation in Europe and opened up new opportunities. Liam knew there was still a lot of work and danger ahead, but he was ready for anything. His team remained loyal and united, and they were ready for new adventures and challenges on the way to greater wealth and fame. Liam and his team enjoyed success and a new, luxurious lifestyle in Paris. However, Liam did not forget that their safety depended on constantly moving forward. He decided that the next step would be to raid one of the most guarded trains in Europe, a train carrying a collection of Vatican memorabilia from Rome to Berlin for a major exhibition. Preparations for this raid took several months. Liam has assembled a team of experts in various areas, from hacking complex security systems to document forgery professionals. He knew that this raid would be the most difficult of his career and required impeccable coordination of all participants. The first step was to obtain accurate information about the route and security of the train. Liam used his contacts in the criminal world to find out all the details. He learned that the train would be accompanied by heavy security, including armed guards and the latest security systems. Liam and his team came up with a plan that included several red herrings. On the day of the operation, they caused an accident on one of the bridges, which forced the train to change route and move through a less secure area. This maneuver gave the team the necessary time to prepare and set traps. When the train arrived, Liam's team was already ready. They used special devices to disable security systems and enter protected carriages. Inside, they found not only valuable relics, but also the latest technology used to protect them. It was a real challenge, but Liam and his team were up to the challenge. They managed to complete the operation and escape, leaving the guards at a loss. The loot turned out to be huge, and its sale brought Liam and his team incredible wealth. However, the fame of this raid attracted the attention of not only the police, but also international intelligence agencies. Liam realized they had to be even more careful now. He began to think about leaving Europe and going to Asia, where they would not be so actively searched for. But first, he decided to spend time in the shadows to calm down interest in their activities. They chose a small town in the south of France, where they enjoyed a well-deserved vacation. However, Liam couldn't stay quiet for long. Soon he began to develop a new plan, the most ambitious and risky raid of his life. Liam learned about a special train that was supposed to transport a huge shipment of gold from Moscow to Beijing. This train was surrounded by legends and was considered impregnable. But nothing was impossible for Liam and his team. Preparations for this raid included not only studying the route and security, but also working with local criminal groups to provide support on the ground. Liam understood that this raid would be a test for all team members, and he carefully selected people for this task. When the day of the operation arrived, everything was ready. Liam and his team arrived in Moscow and positioned themselves along the route. The raid was planned down to the smallest detail, and the team acted coherently and confidently. They were able to hijack the train and take out the gold, leaving the guards at a loss. This raid was the most notorious in Liam's career and brought him incredible wealth. However, now not only the intelligence services of Europe, but also Asia were hunting for him. Liam realized that their path was becoming more and more dangerous and began to think about leaving the criminal world forever. But for now, Liam and his team enjoyed success and continued to look for new opportunities for enrichment. Their stories became legends, and Liam himself became a living legend, the richest and most elusive train robber in the world. Liam and his team realized that they had reached unprecedented heights in their craft, but with success came increasing danger. They decided to lie low to avoid increased attention from the authorities. Liam knew they needed to temporarily stop the raids and change their tactics. They chose a quiet city on the coast of Thailand to hide and think about their further actions. For several months, they enjoyed a luxurious life, investing part of their funds in legal businesses to create a legal cover for their activities. Liam opened several restaurants and hotels, which not only generated income but also served as a meeting place for new partners. But Liam couldn't stay idle for long. He soon learned that rare antiques and treasures were being transported from a museum in Hong Kong to a private collection in Shanghai. This was a unique opportunity that could make them a lot of money. Liam decided that this raid would be their farewell before they left the criminal world completely. The team reassembled to prepare for the operation. Liam knew they had to act quickly and accurately to avoid any attention. They carefully studied the route, schedule, and security of the train, developing a plan that would run flawlessly. On the night of the raid, Liam and his team arrived on the scene. They used their old tricks, diversionary maneuvers, hacking security systems, and quickly entering the carriages. However, this time the guards were more prepared, and a fierce firefight began. Liam knew the stakes were high and they had to act decisively. Despite the difficulty, they managed to capture valuable treasures and escape. But this raid turned out to be much riskier than they expected. The police and intelligence agencies launched a massive operation to capture them, and Liam realized that now they really had to go into hiding. The team decided to split up and leave Asia. Liam headed to South America, choosing a small country with little international cooperation on extradition matters. He changed his appearance, used fake documents, and started a new life under a different name. The rest of the team also scattered around the world, each choosing their own path. They continued to communicate through encrypted channels, sharing news and information about their new lives. Liam started a new life in Brazil, where he opened a small hotel on the coast. He enjoyed the peace and anonymity, but at heart he always remained the same Liam Hudson who was not afraid to take risks for huge rewards. Despite all the precautions, Liam Hudson could not completely escape his past. His new life in Brazil seemed calm, but inside he felt empty. The adrenaline and thrill he experienced during the raids became part of his being, and without them, life seemed incomplete. One day, while sitting on the terrace of his hotel and watching the ocean, Liam received an encrypted message from one of the old team members. It was Marcus, his longtime colleague and friend. The message spoke of a huge opportunity that could take them back to the top. In Europe, plans were made to transport a unique collection of precious artifacts from a private museum in Spain to the Louvre in Paris. It was a convoy that included not only trains, but also armored trucks and heavy security. Marcus proposed to meet and discuss the details of a plan that could be their last great thing. Liam thought about this proposal for a long time. He understood that returning to the criminal world carried enormous risks, but the desire to feel the taste of adrenaline again was too strong. He decided to meet Marcus in Barcelona and discuss the details of the operation. The meeting in Barcelona was successful. Marcus explained his plan: hire the best people, use cutting-edge technology, and proceed with the utmost caution. They assembled a team of old proven members and several new faces with unique skills. Preparations for the raid were in full swing. Liam and Marcus worked out every detail, taking into account all possible scenarios. They chose the ideal location for an attack, a narrow mountain pass where the convoy would be forced to slow down. The day of the operation arrived. Liam and his team were ready. They positioned their forces along the pass, preparing everything necessary for a quick and effective capture. The convoy showed up right on schedule, and the team got down to business. The first step was to create an artificial landslide that blocked the path. The convoy guards were forced to stop and try to clear the road. At that moment, Liam and his men attacked. They used smoke bombs and ultrasonic devices to disorient the guards. Soon, Liam's team made their way to the trucks and began unloading the artifacts. Everything went like clockwork, but suddenly, police helicopters appeared on the horizon. Liam realized they had very little time left. They collected their loot and fled in pre-prepared vehicles, leaving the police far behind. This raid became the most daring and successful of their careers. Liam and his team divided the spoils and went to different parts of the world. Liam returned to Brazil, where he continued to lead a quiet life, enjoying luxury and anonymity. Liam enjoyed his quiet existence in Brazil, but he knew that even in this paradise he could not completely hide from his past. One hot tropical day he received an unexpected letter without a return address. Inside was only a piece of paper with coordinates and a laconic message. Last chance. The reward is huge. Liam couldn't resist the temptation. He decided to go to the specified coordinates, which led him to a place lost in the jungle. There he met an old acquaintance, Victor, a famous international smuggler with whom Liam had crossed paths several years ago. Victor told Liam about an incredible opportunity. A cargo ship carrying unique and rare artifacts from museums around the world was about to pass through the Panama Canal. This ship was not only heavily guarded, but also hidden from most of the world's cartels, making it an ideal target for Liam and his crew. Liam agreed to Victor's proposal, but understood that for such a task he needed to assemble the best team. He contacted Marcus and the rest of his old team again, offering them one last great job. They began preparations, carefully studying the ship's route and developing a capture plan. Liam decided to act at night when the guards would be less vigilant. They rented several speedboats and hired local fishermen who knew the waters of the Panama Canal well. The night of the operation arrived. Liam and his team were ready. They waited until the ship entered a narrow section of the canal and began their attack. Using boats and underwater vehicles, they quietly approached the ship. Liam and Marcus led the group to board the ship. Inside the ship, the crew encountered unexpected difficulties. The security turned out to be more prepared than they expected. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. They had to act quickly and decisively. Liam and his men reached the cargo bays where the artifacts were stored. They began to unload valuable items, but at that moment, patrol boats entered the canal, raising the alarm. Liam realized they only had a few minutes to leave the ship. With incredible speed, they completed the operation and returned to their boats, carrying away the loot. Patrol boats gave chase, and Liam's crew found themselves in a tense race through the waters of the Panama Canal. Using their skills and knowledge of the area, they managed to escape into the maze of canals and rivers. When they finally reached safety, Liam felt a huge sense of relief. This raid turned out to be the most difficult and risky in his career, but also the most profitable. The loot included priceless artifacts that could be sold for huge sums of money. Liam and his team shared the reward and went to different parts of the world. Liam returned to Brazil, where he could finally enjoy a well-deserved break. He knew that his name would go down in history not only as the richest train robber, but also as a legend in the criminal world. Liam Hudson returned to Brazil, now even richer, but also more cautious and cautious. He knew his reputation could attract unwanted attention, so he decided to delve even deeper into legitimate business, masking his activities behind the facade of a successful entrepreneur. His hotel on the coast began to flourish, attracting wealthy tourists from all over the world. Liam invested part of his funds in the construction of a luxury resort complex, which quickly gained popularity among the rich and famous. Outwardly, he led the life of a respectable businessman, but within him, the fire of an adventurer still burned. One day, while enjoying an evening at his new resort, Liam received an unexpected visit. A middle-aged woman approached him with a mysterious sparkle in her eyes. She introduced herself as Evelyn, an agent for a private collection who needed Liam's help. Evelyn knew about his past and offered a deal that was hard to refuse. She talked about an incredible collection of precious stones hidden in an ancient castle in Switzerland. The collection belonged to one of the richest families in Europe, but access to it was almost impossible due to complex security systems. Evelyn offered Liam not only a generous reward, but also the opportunity to re-experience the adrenaline that he had been looking for so long. Liam, despite all his caution, could not resist the challenge. He began preparing for a new operation, enlisting the help of old friends and security experts. The team traveled to Switzerland, where they began to carefully study the castle and its security. The building was a real bastion, equipped with the latest technology and guarded along the perimeter. Liam and his team spent several weeks studying every detail and developing an infiltration plan. They knew that success depended on precision and coordination. On the night of the operation, the team acted quickly and decisively. They used the latest devices to hack security systems and silently entered the castle. A real maze awaited them inside, but Liam did not lose confidence. They reached the vault where the collection was kept and began removing the jewelry. But suddenly, the alarm went off. The castle guards responded quickly, and an intense battle began. Liam and his team worked together, but time was against them. At the last moment, they managed to take the main part of the collection and escape through a secret passage, which they learned about in advance. Returning to Brazil, Liam felt satisfied and proud of another successful operation. His life regained brightness and meaning. He realized that he would never be able to completely abandon his past. Liam now lived a double life, a successful entrepreneur by day and an elusive burglar by night. His legend continued to grow as stories of his exploits spread throughout the world, inspiring a new generation of adventurers. Outwardly, Liam's life in Brazil continued to be calm and successful. His resort complex flourished, attracting the elite from all over the world. But Liam still had the adventurer's fire inside him, and thoughts of new challenges haunted him. He spent his evenings in thought, studying maps and drawings, looking for new opportunities for adventure. One of these evenings he received a strange letter, delivered personally by courier. The letter was written on thick paper and contained a riddle hinting at a treasure hidden in the Amazon jungle. At the bottom was the signature, Evelyn. She found him again. Liam couldn't resist this challenge. He knew that searching for treasure in the jungle would involve huge risks, but he also knew that this was his chance to experience the adrenaline again and open a new chapter in his life. He contacted Evelyn, and they agreed to meet at one of his hotels. Evelyn told Liam about an ancient legend associated with the lost city of the Incas, where untold riches were hidden. Many tried to find him, but the Amazon jungle proved too dangerous for most explorers. Evelyn invited Liam to become the leader of the expedition, promising not only material rewards, but also glory that one could only dream of. Liam assembled a team of the best specialists, archaeologists, geologists, guides, and experienced mercenaries. They ventured into the heart of the Amazon, armed with the latest equipment and maps found in old archives. The path was difficult, and the jungle presented many surprises, from dangerous predators to treacherous swamps. As the expedition progressed, they encountered various obstacles, But with their experience and skills, Liam and his team overcame them. One day, after several weeks of travel, they came across traces of an ancient civilization. Stone buildings overgrown with vines and moss indicated that they were on the right path. However, as they approached the goal, the team began to feel not only physical fatigue, but also growing tension. Legend said that the treasures were guarded by the spirits of ancestors, and events soon began to confirm this. Sudden collapses, disappearances of team members, and mysterious sounds at night made everyone wary. Eventually, they reached the center of the lost city. Inside the ancient temple, they found a huge amount of gold, precious stones, and artifacts that exceeded all their expectations. But along with the treasures, they also discovered ancient traps that were activated when they tried to take the jewelry. Liam, using all his skills and experience, managed to bypass the traps and lead the team out of the temple with part of the treasure. However, at the exit from the city, another danger awaited them. A group of mercenaries hired by Evelyn's competitors tried to seize the treasures by force. In the ensuing firefight, Liam and his team managed to repel the attack and escape into the jungle. Returning to civilization, Liam and his team became legends. Their discovery caused a sensation, and Liam himself was again in the spotlight. But he understood that the real reward was not in gold and jewelry, but in the adventure itself and the experience. Liam Hudson, the richest train robber, also became the greatest treasure hunter of his time. And although his life had returned to normal, he knew that new challenges and adventures awaited him, which he would look forward to. Despite all the fame and fortune, Liam Hudson knew his thirst for adventure had not quenched. His exploits made him a legend, and his fame spread far beyond America and Europe. One evening, while sitting on the terrace of his hotel and watching the sunset over the ocean, Liam received another mysterious message. This letter was unusual, a thin silk envelope sealed with a gold wax seal. Inside was a small map and a laconic message. The eternal city awaits you. The secret of eternal youth will be your reward. The letter was signed by a familiar name, Evelyn. Liam knew this invitation could not be ignored. He gathered his team and went to Italy, to the heart of Rome. Here, among the ancient ruins and historical monuments, were hidden mysteries that could lead them to another incredible adventure. Evelyn met them in an ancient villa on the outskirts of Rome. She said that she had found ancient manuscripts that mentioned an ancient temple hidden under Rome. This temple supposedly held the secret of eternal youth, and many seekers have tried to find it over the centuries, but no one has returned. Liam's team was ready for any challenge. They began by exploring the catacombs of Rome, making their way through the labyrinthine tunnels and underground passages that ran deep beneath the city. The path was difficult, but Liam and his people did not give up. Various obstacles arose on their way: collapsed passages, traps left by ancient builders, and even competitors who learned about the search for Liam and his team. But thanks to experience and ingenuity, they moved forward. Finally, after weeks of intense searching, the team discovered a hidden entrance to the temple. It was a stunning sight: ancient columns decorated with mosaics and altars covered with gold decorations. In the center of the temple, there was a large stone sarcophagus decorated with mystical symbols. They knew that the solution was inside the sarcophagus. Liam and his team carefully opened it to reveal an incredible sight: ancient manuscripts, crystals, and vials of unknown liquids. It was a treasure of knowledge preserved for centuries. But as soon as they touched the treasures, the temple began to collapse. The walls shook and debris began to fall from the ceiling. Liam knew he had to act quickly. He took several of the most valuable artifacts and ordered the team to urgently leave the temple. They barely managed to get out of the catacombs when the temple completely collapsed. Returning to the surface, Liam and his team realized that they had found not only material treasures, but also knowledge that could change their lives. After studying the manuscripts they found, They realized that the secret of eternal youth was more than just a legend. It was a whole complex of knowledge about ancient medical and alchemical practices that could prolong life and maintain health. Liam returned to Brazil, where he opened a new center for the study of ancient knowledge. He decided to dedicate his life not only to adventure, but also to exploring these ancient secrets in order to make the world a better place. His reputation as a great adventurer and explorer was further strengthened. Now Liam Hudson is not only the richest train robber and treasure hunter, but also a man who has dedicated his life to finding and preserving ancient knowledge. His stories continued to inspire a new generation of adventurers and explorers, and Liam himself knew that many more incredible discoveries and adventures lay ahead of him. After returning to Brazil, Liam focused on studying the ancient knowledge found in a Roman temple. His new research center attracted the best scientists and researchers from around the world, but Liam knew that his fate would not give him peace, and soon a new adventure loomed on the horizon. One evening, Liam received an unexpected invitation to an international conference on ancient artifacts in Tokyo. He accepted the invitation, knowing that he might meet people there who would help him in his quest. In Tokyo, Liam met Professor Hiroshi Saito, a renowned expert on ancient Japanese artifacts and myths. Professor Saito told Liam about the legend associated with the mysterious island of Ryugu, which supposedly holds the secrets of immortality and incredible wealth. Legend said that this island appeared and disappeared in the ocean, and only a select few could find it. Hiroshi invited Liam to go in search of the island together, using ancient maps and modern technology. Liam agreed, realizing that this would be one of the most challenging and exciting adventures of his life. They assembled a team of the best explorers, sailors, and scientists and set sail across the Pacific Ocean. The journey was long and dangerous, but Liam and his team were determined. Finally, after several weeks of searching, they came across a strange phenomenon. An island appeared on the horizon in the distance, which was not listed on any map. They approached it and saw that it was a real piece of paradise: dense forests, crystal-clear lakes, and ancient temples hidden in the thickets. They went ashore and began to explore the island. The team discovered many artifacts and ancient manuscripts that support legends of immortality. But the most surprising discovery was that the island was inhabited by a small tribe that lived in harmony with nature and kept ancient knowledge. Liam and Professor Saito spent a lot of time with the local people, learning about their culture and traditions. They learned that the secret of immortality lay not only in ancient medical practices, but also in spiritual harmony with nature and the world around. Ryugu Island became a real discovery and source of inspiration for them. However, signs of danger soon appeared on the horizon. International corporations learned of the island's existence and its secrets and sent expeditions to seize wealth and resources. Liam knew he had to protect the island and its people. He joined forces with the locals and Professor Sato's team to create a defense plan. They used ancient traps and knowledge to stop the intruders. After several intense battles, they managed to defend the island and preserve its secrets. Returning to Brazil, Liam knew his life had changed forever. He not only found a new source of knowledge, but also realized that true wealth lies not in gold and jewelry, but in harmony with the world and oneself. Its research center has become one of the most famous in the world, attracting scientists and researchers from all over the world. Liam Hudson continued to live life to the fullest, exploring the world and discovering new secrets. His adventures became a legend, and his name became a symbol of courage, knowledge, and the desire for harmony. And although his travels were full of dangers, Liam knew that many more amazing discoveries and adventures awaited him ahead. After returning from Japan, Liam Hudson and his research center in Brazil became known throughout the world. He organized many expeditions, studying ancient civilizations and revealing their secrets. But his thirst for adventure did not fade. One day, Having received an invitation from an old archaeologist friend, Liam went to a conference in Cairo. There he met Dr. Amira Hassan, a renowned expert on ancient Egyptian artifacts. Amira told Liam about the legend surrounding a secret tomb supposedly hidden beneath the Great Pyramids. Legend has it that this tomb contains the pharaoh's stone, which has incredible magical properties. Liam couldn't resist this challenge. He and Amira decided to join forces and go in search of the tomb. They assembled a team of the best archaeologists and engineers to penetrate the underground tunnels and labyrinths hidden under the pyramids. The expedition began with a careful study of ancient texts and maps. Liam's team spent several weeks exploring caves and catacombs, encountering various traps and obstacles. Their path was full of dangers, but they moved forward, full of determination. One day, delving deeper into the dark tunnels, they came across a massive door decorated with hieroglyphs and symbols. This was the entrance to a secret tomb. Liam's team began to carefully open the door using modern technology and ancient knowledge. Inside the tomb, they discovered a stunning sight: walls covered with gold decorations and many ancient artifacts. In the center of the hall, on a pedestal, lay the pharaoh's stone, a huge crystal emitting a mysterious glow. However, as soon as they approached the stone, the tomb's ancient defenses activated. The walls began to move, and ancient mechanisms appeared from secret holes aimed at protecting the treasure. Liam and his team had to act quickly and coordinatedly to avoid the traps and get out alive. Using all their skills and knowledge, they managed to disable the mechanisms and take the pharaoh's stone. But their trials did not end there. The exit from the tomb was blocked and they were trapped inside. Liam knew he had to find another way. The team began exploring the tomb in search of a secret passage. They discovered a hidden tunnel that led to another part of the pyramid. Making their way through narrow passages and avoiding dangers, they finally came to the surface, holding an ancient artifact in their hands. Returning to Cairo, Liam and Amira realized that the pharaoh's stone truly had incredible properties. They decided that the stone should be preserved for science and study, and not used for personal gain. Together, they organized a research project, attracting the best minds from around the world. The secrets of the pharaoh's stone began to be revealed, and this discovery led to new scientific breakthroughs. Liam and Amira became known as heroes who not only found an ancient artifact, but were able to use it for the benefit of humanity. However, Liam knew that his adventures were not over. There were still unexplored secrets and treasures in the world that were waiting to be discovered. He continued to travel, opening new horizons and leaving behind him a trail of great discoveries. Liam Hudson is back in Brazil, but his thoughts are back to the good old days when he and his crew pulled off daring train robberies. In the evenings, sitting on the terrace of his hotel and watching the ocean, Liam again began to develop plans for new raids. He felt that the old fire had not gone out, and his team was ready for new challenges. One evening, he received an encrypted message from Marcus, who reported a new train carrying a large shipment of precious stones from the mines of South Africa to the port of Cape Town. This train was known by the code name Sapphire Express, and the security on it was incredibly tight. But it was precisely these kinds of challenges that attracted Liam. He contacted Marcus and the rest of the team, inviting them to return to the old business. The team responded enthusiastically to the proposal, and they began to carefully develop a plan. They knew that the raid on the Sapphire Express would require the utmost precision and coordination. The first step was to obtain information about the route and schedule of the train. Liam used his old connections in the criminal world to find out all the details. They studied every kilometer of the route, choosing the ideal place for an attack, a narrow mountain pass where the train would be forced to slow down. On the night of the operation, Liam's team was ready. They positioned themselves along the pass, preparing everything necessary for a quick and silent capture. Liam and his men used the latest technology to hack security systems and disable alarms. They made their way to the train, acting quickly and smoothly. After breaking into the freight cars, they discovered precious stones, carefully packed and guarded. Liam and his team began to unload the treasure, but suddenly the alarm went off. The train security reacted quickly and a fierce firefight began. Liam knew they didn't have much time, but he wasn't going to give up. Using smoke bombs and ultrasonic devices to confuse the guards, Liam's team managed to complete the unloading and escape. They loaded the loot into prepared vehicles and quickly left the raid site, leaving the guards at a loss. Returning to base, Liam and his team assessed the loot. The gems were worth a fortune. This raid became one of the most successful in their careers. They divided the reward and agreed to temporarily lie low to avoid increased police attention. But Liam knew this was just the beginning. New raids and tests lay ahead of them. He continued to develop plans and seek new goals, realizing that his team was always ready for new adventures and challenges. Despite the success of the raid on the Sapphire Express, Liam knew that they were only dreaming of peace. Soon he received information about another large cargo. A train carrying rare antiques and historical relics was supposed to leave Prague for Paris. Liam understood that such cargo would be under heavy security, but that didn't stop him. He reassembled the team and began developing a plan. They knew that the train's route would pass through dense forests and mountains, providing them with ideal conditions for a sneak attack. The team studied schedules and security, developing several contingency scenarios. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team were positioned along a narrow section of track where the train had to slow down on a sharp bend. They set several traps and prepared equipment to break into the carriages. When the train appeared on the horizon, the team began to act. Using powerful lasers, they cut through the armor of the carriages and entered. The train security resisted, but Liam and his men were ready. A quick and accurate attack allowed them to neutralize the guards and begin unloading the antiques. In the carriage, they found ancient paintings, sculptures, and precious artifacts valued at millions of dollars. However, as soon as they began to unload the loot, additional security arrived at the site, called by an alarm. Liam and his team were trapped, but not at a loss. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to confuse the guards and complete the operation. The team quickly loaded the antiques into trucks and disappeared into the forest, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they realized that this raid was not only successful, but also extremely risky. The booty turned out to be priceless, and they divided the reward, deciding to lie low for a while. Liam understood that each new raid required more and more caution and careful preparation. But his thirst for adventure did not fade, and he began to look for new goals. Soon he came across information about a train transporting rare minerals and precious stones from Siberia to Moscow. This cargo was as valuable as it was dangerous to capture. Liam reassembled the team and began preparing for a new raid. They studied routes, guards, and possible attack points, knowing that every detail mattered. The team was determined and ready for new challenges. On the day of the operation, they positioned themselves along the route, preparing everything necessary for a quick capture. The train, loaded with rare minerals and gems, slowed down a steep descent, and Liam's team launched an attack. They cut through the armored carriages and began to unload the valuable cargo, but suddenly encountered unexpected resistance. The train guards were prepared for a possible attack, and a fierce firefight ensued. Liam and his team acted quickly and decisively, using all their skills and knowledge. They managed to complete the unloading and escape, but not without losses. Returning to base, they realized that this raid was one of the most difficult and risky in their careers, but the extraction was worth all the effort. Liam knew that new challenges lay ahead, but he was ready for them. His team continued to prepare for new raids, knowing that their leader would always find a way to cope with any difficulties. Liam Hudson and his team continued to enjoy their successes, but Liam knew they needed to up the ante and create something truly big. He knew their reputation was already legendary, but now it was time to do something that would go down in history as the biggest heist of all time. One evening, Liam received information about a train that was supposed to transport the treasures of one of the largest banks in Europe from Berlin to London. This cargo included not only gold and precious stones, but also valuable documents, works of art, and rare antiques. Such a train attracted the attention of everyone who had ever thought about a major raid. Liam knew that such a plan would require the utmost preparation and coordination. He gathered the whole team and proposed an idea to them. They began to carefully develop a plan, taking into account all possible risks and difficulties. Liam decided that this raid should be not only the largest, but also the safest for his team. The first step was to obtain accurate information about the route and security of the train. Liam used his contacts to find out all the details. They found out that the train would travel through several countries, and each of them would provide its own security. This made the raid even more difficult, but Liam was confident in himself and his team. The team began preparations using the latest technologies and methods. They developed several diversionary maneuvers that would confuse the guards and allow them to act quickly and effectively. Each team member knew his role and was prepared for any eventuality. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would be crossing the border between Germany and Belgium, where security might be less vigilant. At that moment, their plan began. Using powerful lasers and explosive devices, they cut through the armor of the cars and began to penetrate inside. The train security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and accurate attack allowed them to disarm the guards and begin unloading the treasure. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to complete the unloading and escape. The team split into several groups, each of which headed to pre-prepared shelters. Liam and his closest associates disappeared into the forest, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they assessed the loot: gold, precious stones, works of art, and rare documents. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. The haul was worth billions of dollars, and Liam's team knew they had made history. But Liam knew that such success would attract a lot of attention, and now they had to be even more careful. They decided to temporarily lay low and rest, but deep down, each of them knew that new grandiose raids and adventures awaited them. After a grand robbery, Liam and his team decided to lay low. They dispersed to different parts of the world to avoid the attention of authorities and competitors. However, Liam couldn't sit idle for long. Soon he began to develop a plan for a new, even larger-scale raid. One day, Liam received information about a train that was supposed to transport rare minerals and gems from the mines of South Africa to a large bank in Zurich. Codenamed the Diamond Express, the train was heavily guarded and an ideal target for a new daring operation. Liam gathered his team and gave them a plan. They understood that the success of this raid would require not only skill and ingenuity, but also impeccable coordination. The team began to carefully prepare, studying the train's route, its security, and possible vulnerabilities. The first step was to obtain accurate information about the train's schedule and security. Liam used his old connections in the criminal world to find out all the details. They found out that the train would travel through several countries, and each of them would provide its own security. This made the raid even more difficult, but Liam was confident of success. The team began preparations using the latest technologies and methods. They developed several diversionary maneuvers to confuse the guards and allow them to act quickly and effectively. Each team member knew his role and was prepared for any eventuality. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would be passing through a deserted area in Namibia, where security might be less vigilant. At that moment, their plan began. Using powerful lasers and explosive devices, they cut through the armor of the cars and began to penetrate inside. The train's security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and precise attack allowed them to disarm the guards and begin unloading precious minerals and stones. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to complete the unloading and escape. The team split into several groups, each of which headed to pre-prepared shelters. Liam and his closest associates disappeared into the desert, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they assessed the loot, precious minerals and stones valued at billions of dollars. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. Liam and his team knew that they had gone down in history as the most daring and elusive robbers. However, Liam knew that such success would attract a lot of attention, and now they had to be even more careful. They decided to temporarily lay low and rest, but deep down, each of them knew that new grandiose raids and adventures awaited them. A few months passed and Liam began to think about the next big thing. He learned about a train that was supposed to transport not only precious stones, but also rare works of art from St. Petersburg to Paris. This was a unique opportunity that could not be missed. Liam reassembled the team and began developing a plan. They knew that the success of this raid would require maximum preparation and coordination. The team began studying the route, schedule, and security of the train, developing several contingency scenarios. When the day of the operation arrived, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything they needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would be passing through a forested area in Poland, where security might be less vigilant. Using powerful lasers and explosive devices, they cut through the armor of the carriages and began to penetrate inside. The train security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and precise attack allowed them to neutralize the guards and begin unloading gems and works of art. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to complete the unloading and escape. The team split into several groups, each of which headed to pre-prepared shelters. Liam and his closest associates disappeared into the forest, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they appraised the loot, gems and works of art valued at billions of dollars. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. Liam and his team knew that they had gone down in history as the most daring and elusive robbers. However, Liam knew that such success would attract a lot of attention, and now they had to be even more careful. They decided to temporarily lay low and rest, but deep down, each of them knew that new grandiose raids and adventures awaited them. Liam and his team decided that for their next heist, they needed something truly unexpected and innovative. They learned about a train that was supposed to transport cryptocurrency servers and mining equipment from Dubai to Frankfurt. This cargo was extremely valuable given the growing popularity of cryptocurrencies. Liam and his team began to develop a plan that involved using new technology and methods to infiltrate the train and seize the equipment undetected. They understood that the success of this raid would require maximum coordination and innovation. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team were positioned along a key section of the desert route. They chose the moment when the train would pass through a deserted area. Instead of using standard distraction methods, the team decided to use their latest developments. Instead of traditional smoke grenades, they used drones equipped with communication jamming systems and visual deception. The drones created the illusion that the train was surrounded by fog and mirages, confusing security. Liam and his men, dressed in thermal camouflage suits, made their way onto the train and used powerful electromagnetic pulses to temporarily disable the security systems. They got inside and began unloading mining equipment. The operation went according to plan, but suddenly the team was faced with an unexpected problem. One of the servers was mined in case of hacking. Liam reacted quickly and, using the knowledge of his specialists, defused the explosive device. Meanwhile, the train guards began to suspect something was wrong. Instead of a regular firefight, Liam's team used sonic weapons, creating powerful sound waves that stunned the guards and temporarily incapacitated them. Liam's team acted quickly and professionally. They loaded all the equipment into prepared vehicles and began to retreat. This time, they used underground tunnels, dug in advance using special equipment to hide from possible persecution. Returning to base, they assessed the loot and realized that this raid was the most innovative and risky in their careers. Mining equipment and cryptocurrency servers cost billions of dollars. However, their adventures did not end there. Liam learned about a new project, a train that was supposed to transport not only valuable cargo, but also the best scientists and researchers from around the world to a secret conference in Geneva. This train represented not only financial but also intellectual value. Liam and his team began developing a plan, realizing that this time they would face unprecedented challenges. They knew that the success of this raid would require maximum coordination and innovation. The team was determined and ready for new challenges. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would pass through a dense forest area where the guards might be less vigilant. Using jamming drones and acoustic weapons, they cut through the armored carriages and began to penetrate. The train's security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and precise attack allowed them to neutralize the guards and begin unloading valuable cargo and scientists. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce fight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using pre-prepared routes and hiding places, Liam and his team were able to escape pursuit. Returning to base, they assessed the spoils, valuable technologies, developments, and intellectual data, the value of which was estimated at billions of dollars. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. Liam and his team knew that they had gone down in history as the most daring and elusive robbers. After a string of successful and innovative heists, Liam Hudson and his team were enjoying a well-deserved break, confident in their elusiveness. But their self-confidence soon faced a new challenge. One of the best detectives in the world, Elias Carter, known for his unsurpassed insight and ability to solve the most difficult cases, joined the case. Elias Carter had long heard about the daring raids of Liam and his team. He was intrigued by their ability to evade capture and decided that he could be the one to stop them. Carter began his investigation by carefully studying each robbery, analyzing the techniques and traces left behind. Meanwhile, Liam and his team received information about a new train that would transport not only valuable cargo, but also rare artifacts from the Louvre Museum in Paris to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. This train was a real treasure, and Liam knew this was their chance to pull off another great heist. The team began developing a plan, unaware that Carter had already begun collecting information about them. The detective noticed subtle details that went unnoticed by others. He realized that the next raid would be connected with this train and began to develop his counterplan. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team followed the usual scenario: drones, acoustic devices, and high-tech hacking methods. They cut through the armored carriages and began to penetrate inside. At this point, Carter, watching from a safe distance, activated his traps. Carter had previously installed hidden cameras and motion sensors along the route to track Liam's team's every move. As they began to unload valuable artifacts, Carter signaled to his team. He decided not to engage in direct combat so as not to put himself or others at risk. Liam and his team noticed something was wrong when their devices started malfunctioning. They quickly realized that someone was watching them. Liam decided to retreat immediately. They loaded the loot and left the raid site, trying not to leave traces. Back at base, Liam and his team began to analyze what went wrong. They realized that someone very smart and prepared was acting against them. Liam decided he needed to find out more about his new opponent. Elias Carter, in turn, continued to collect information and analyze the actions of Liam and his team. He knew this cat-and-mouse game was just beginning. The detective was sure that sooner or later he would find a way to stop them. Liam and his team decided to temporarily lay low and change their methods to cover their tracks. They realized that now they had to be even more careful and resourceful to avoid capture. Elias Carter wasted no time. He focused on studying the latest robberies and found that Liam's team always followed certain patterns, but with new and innovative methods. He began to strategize how to use this to his advantage. Carter gained access to CCTV footage and communication signals to track Liam's team's every move. He realized that to succeed, he would need to not only observe, but also implement his technology into their equipment. Using his connections in the tech world, he was able to create devices that could neutralize drones and block Liam's team's communication signals. Liam and his team, unaware of Carter's plans, received information about a train transporting a large shipment of gold bullion from a bank in Zurich to London. This train was their next target. They began their preparations, confident in their abilities and methods. On the day of the robbery, Carter was ready. He placed his men along the train route, preparing devices to neutralize the drones and block communications. When Liam and his team launched their attack, the drones unexpectedly malfunctioned and communication signals were blocked. Liam sensed something was wrong, but the team was already involved in the operation. They continued to infiltrate the trains and began unloading the gold. At this point, Carter and his men attacked. They used technology to confuse Liam's team and neutralize them. A fierce battle ensued, but Carter and his men were better prepared. They acted quickly and smoothly, capturing Liam's team members one by one. Liam realized that their plan had failed and ordered a retreat. Part of Liam's team managed to escape, but Carter managed to capture several key members of the gang. They were taken to a secure location for questioning. Liam, realizing that he had lost some of his men, began to analyze how they could have fallen into a trap. Carter, having gained access to the gang members, began to carefully interrogate them, using not only force, but also psychological methods. He knew that Liam was their leader, and that without him, they wouldn't be able to hide for long. Meanwhile, Liam decided to save his people and developed a plan to free them. He knew it would be dangerous, but he couldn't leave his comrades in the lurch. However, Carter foresaw this move and prepared a trap for Liam. When Liam attempted to free his men, Carter and his team were ready. Another fight ensued, but this time Carter managed to capture Liam himself. He was arrested and taken to prison, where he faced a lengthy investigation and trial. The members of Liam's team who remained free were demoralized. They understood that without their leader, their chances of continuing their activities were minimal. Carter was victorious, but he knew there would always be new challenges and new criminals ready to test his abilities. The story of Liam Hudson and his team has become the stuff of legend, but that legend has now come to an end. Carter proved that even the most skilled and elusive criminals can be caught if a smart and determined detective works against them. Elias Carter was determined to catch Liam Hudson's entire team. After capturing several key members of the gang, he realized he had to act quickly to prevent the rest from escaping. Using the information obtained during the interrogations, Carter began to develop a comprehensive plan to capture the entire gang. Carter knew that Liam and his team had left trails in their latest operations, and he decided to use those trails to lure them out into the open. He created a fake operation that would attract the attention of Liam and his men. Carter spread rumors of a huge cargo of diamonds being transported from South African mines to Amsterdam. Liam, despite the risks, decided that this was too good an opportunity to pass up. He gathered the remaining team members and began preparations for the raid. They developed a plan that included using the latest technology and techniques to successfully hijack the cargo. Meanwhile, Carter prepared his trap. He placed hidden cameras and sensors along the route to track the gang's every move. He also brought the best special forces into the operation to ensure success. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team followed their plan. They used drones and high-tech devices to neutralize guards and infiltrate trains. However, they were unaware that Carter was watching them from the very beginning. As the team began to unload the diamonds, Carter activated his trap. He disabled all of Liam's drones and communications devices, leaving them without support or information. At this moment, special forces attacked from several sides, surrounding the team. A fierce fight ensued. Liam and his men tried to resist, but Carter and his team were better prepared. They used tactics and modern weapons to quickly neutralize and capture each member of the gang. Liam realized they had fallen into a carefully planned trap. He tried to lead his men out of the encirclement, but Carter was one step ahead. The detective anticipated Liam's every move and blocked all escape routes. When the last of the gang were captured, Liam realized it was the end of their careers. He was arrested along with his associates and taken to a special facility for interrogation. Carter personally conducted interrogations, using his skills to obtain as much information as possible about the gang's activities. As a result of the investigation, all the details about the past raids of Liam and his team were revealed. The trial was quick and fair. Liam and his people received long prison sentences. Their legend, which once inspired fear and admiration, has now become a story of how even the most intelligent and cunning criminals can be caught. Carter proved that even the most sophisticated criminals cannot escape justice if a smart and determined detective works against them. His name has become synonymous with professionalism and perseverance. And the story of Liam Hudson and his gang is an example that sooner or later justice will prevail. Elias Carter, having achieved his goal, felt relief and satisfaction from the completed work. The arrest of Liam Hudson and his team became a sensation in the criminal world and police circles. Carter received numerous awards and recognition for his work, but knew this was only one of many cases he would have to investigate. After trials in which Liam and his team received long prison sentences, Carter returned to his regular job. He continued to investigate complex and intricate cases, always remembering that each new case was another challenge to his skills and professionalism. Meanwhile, Liam Hudson, sitting in prison, reflected on his life and his mistakes. He understood that his thirst for adventure and risky operations led to his downfall. But despite this, he did not feel regret for the life he lived, full of dangers and thrills. Liam knew his story was the stuff of legend. Books were written about him, documentaries were made, and his name became a symbol of audacity and elusiveness. In prison, he began writing his memoirs, hoping that his experience and knowledge would help others avoid the same mistakes. Members of Liam's team who ended up in prison also found their own ways of coping with the situation. Some began to cooperate with the authorities, providing information about other criminal groups. Others tried to change their lives, finding new ways for self-realization. Carter, meanwhile, continued to serve as an example to young detectives, showing that persistence, intelligence, and professionalism can lead to success in even the most difficult cases. His name became synonymous with fairness and justice, and his methods became an example to follow. The story of Liam Hudson and his crew may have ended, but it has left an indelible mark on everyone who followed their adventures. Their legend continued to live, reminding us that even the most daring crimes will sooner or later be solved if a determined and intelligent enemy acts against them. Elias Carter knew that new things and new challenges lay ahead, but he was ready for them. Each new investigation was an opportunity for him to prove that justice always finds its way. And although Liam Hudson's story has come to an end, for Carter, this was just the beginning of new adventures and victories.